the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe. You are listening to Talk of the Night. And now, your host, Paranormal Phil. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the world, around the globe, or even in your own backyard. I am Paranormal Phil, and later on in the show tonight, we're going to be joined by my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal music and comedy and all that stuff on his website, which is linked up on the Talk of the Night website. But on the Talk of the Night website, at under Story of the Day, 15 of the scariest, creepy cartoons. Let's move that out of the way for a second. When most think about animated cartoons, they think children, but these 15 animated horror series will give you a change of mind. People love the horror genre, whether it be in movies, TV, or games, but there is one avenue that most forget about, and that is animated horror television. Here is a list of some of these horror genre television series that I know I grew up on, a lot of people grew up on. Mummies Alive, some I didn't grow up on, but Mummies Alive, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which I loved, at least the original TV series, Creepy Crawlers, and there are more. Of course, you can click on the link at the bottom of that story, and it'll take you right to the thing. So let's talk about my guest real quick, and then we'll bring him in. Dave Shelton, award-winning film and TV writer, cartoonist, musician, voice actor, and author with credits including Everybody Loves Raymond, National Lampoon, Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Sci-Fi Channel, Tiger Beat, Professional Creepy Screams, Party, Brain Explosion, Bad Boy, and Sweet Slob, and more. His current project includes the syndicated late-night horror music and comedy FM radio show, Cemetery Go-Go. The second book in his award-winning children's book, Bad Boy and Sweet Slob series, several films and TV projects dealing with the paranormal, including a sci-fi that is a combination of Walker, Texas Ranger, and X-Files, to star Martin Kleba and I'll probably mess this up, Cynthia Rothrock. Excuse me. He has been featured in many documentaries and shows, including some about his encounters in the paranormal world. Dave is the editor of the hit book, The Ghost of Cielo Drive by David Oman, who is a personal friend of mine. Dave is living in West Virginia, has relocated from LA a few years ago after living there for 30 years, which I relocated 4 years ago. He is also a candidate for state delegate in West Virginia. His website is snuggybear.com, which is linked up on the Talk of the Night website. So please welcome my guest, Dave Shelton, to the show.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Great creepy voice. I got the creepy laugh.
I'm already starting in the mood. Well, it's kind of spooky where I live.
Yeah, especially with those storms headed your way.
What storms?
The ones in Tennessee and everything like that are spawning up tornadoes. We had those yesterday here in North Texas.
Oh, great. Well, forget about it. I'm originally from Jersey. We could handle it.
All right. So
it's so great to be here. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I'm so excited to be part of the show.
Yeah, and of course, I've been a part of the paranormal field for over 30 years, so it's something that I love to talk about. I don't.
And they said it wouldn't last, right?
Yeah. Of course, when I started, it wasn't widely popular as it now is with all the TV shows and everything like that. And even that's died out. But
well, that's because every freaking ghost show has the same type of people, boring, and they never find anything. There's always a cold spot, and it's usually where the fan from the camera is. And it's just kind of sad because the one show that I really, really like is at least, the what is it, the paranormal videos of the paranormal, where they actually show people who send in their own videos. Those are more authentic than ghost hunters ghost encounters and stuff like that.
Or douchebaggins.
Yeah, there you go. There's a good example.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's got their opinion of ghost adventures and stuff like that. But I'm with Dave on that. He plays it up and he attracts his own demons, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I liked it when they had to bring in celebrities like Meatloaf, rest in peace, and other celebrities in order to get some sort of viewership and things, because, oh my God, the ghosts were even asleep when they were on that show. So I'm going like, well, they got to bring in someone. There was actually someone from a TV network, I think out of Boston or that area, and they were interested in having me on, and I said, it would be way more exciting, and, I've experienced more stuff, and I can bring more excitement and fun. You need to have like a comedian to go on these encounters with them to kind of, put the spirit into the spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a lot of investigations. A lot of times I get called into locations when it requires cleansing of the location and everything like that, because I'm good at that now. Like I said, I've been friends with David Oman since about 2014, and of course, when I went there, I'm a kind of a psychic medium in a sense, but I consider myself a hyper empath. And
I'm a psychic extra large. But,
but anyways, when I went there, I didn't want to know anything of the location other than the murders happened down at the end of the drive. And that's all I wanted to know, because I didn't want to ruin my expectation of it. And a lot of people want to know what's happening at the location because maybe they don't have that ability, or they just rather expect it happening rather than wait for it to happen.
A lot of people are not receptive. They'll go in there and think that they're open vessels, but first of all, they go in with skepticism, thinking like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And a lot of times, if you're not open to it, then it probably won't happen. And when it does, they always try to explain it off as something unsupernatural. And as far as like David's house, when we were working on the book, I was there frequently. And I mean, if you want to hear a really particular story that's really kind of spooky and scary, but it was great because it tied in with everything. And since you know the house, do you want to hear that story?
Sure. Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, we were finishing up the book, and we were doing a Facebook Live kind of to talk about the book coming out and everything else about my paranormal experiences, David's with the house, with Sharon, and I believe Joe Johnson, the old boxer from like
Jim Johnson,
I guess early 1900, or Jeff Johnson, that the spirit of his thing, or Jack Johnson. Well, one of them, Jack Johnson, the singer, Jeff Johnson, one of the Johnson brothers, but in the stuff that was going on there. So we're doing in his living room, which you probably know where it is because you've been there. So we're doing a live Facebook, and he has that shelf behind him full of like action figures, and there's a Slender Man there and a whole bunch of other things. So we're going and I'm relating one story, and suddenly the screen starts to pixelate, and there's, it's live streaming, people are looking. Suddenly in the chats, they're going, your screen is breaking up, but we can't see it from our end. Suddenly behind us, the Slender Man figure, whatever it was, flew off the shelf right in the middle of what we were. Yeah, and as soon as it flew off the shelf, maybe like 10 seconds later, the pixels started to clear up and the visuals went back to normal. And I didn't think anything of. People are going like, aren't you freaking out? And well, of course, David lives with it all day long. So I was just like, hey, that's really cool. And I just turned around and I said, could you guys do that again?
Yeah.
And David's like, I don't know if Sharon wants to do that or if it was one of the other spirits that are in the house and stuff. But I thought it was one of the coolest things. I am not afraid of the paranormal. I embrace it. I've had a lot of, I've even had psychics come up to me when I'm doing autograph signings. Like I did one at Comic-Con in San Diego. And a bunch of, I guess it was maybe like 15 years ago. And a psychic came up to me out of nowhere and said, I just had to tell you, your spirit guide, your guardian angel, your grandmother wanted me to come and say hello to you. And I've had experiences where I know that she's been saving me in different situations. And there was one when I was in Kansas at the those little statues, the ones with the teardrop eyes, and they have like this big, huge museum. I forgot the name of it, but something well, we'll think of it. Well, anyway, it was the middle of winter, and I was with my ex-fiance at the time, and there's a chapel right in the middle of this huge lake, and there's only one little road to get there, and we were going to turn into it. Well, there was an ice slick, and we started sliding, and I couldn't control it. I knew we were going to go over the bank into the lake. Suddenly, we feel a jerk, and the car stopped literally at the edge of the ledge. And I knew it was, someone like my grandmother stopping us from going in.
Yeah, now, of course, like I was mentioning about me not wanting to know anything of the location, my friend Steve Hembry, who knew David before I did, and everything, he took me out there because he wanted me to come out and talk, and I ended up, we were driving on the 60 freeway out there. We were, I believe, in Pomona, and and that distance away from David's house, I was looking at the map, making sure we didn't get lost and everything like that. And I zoomed in on the Google Earth to just see the general area. And, of course, I picked up right away on, right next to David's house, what I saw was a portal to the spirit world. And I pointed out on the map to my friend who's driving 80 miles miles per hour down the freeway, trying to show him, but he's like, wait till we get there, just tell me about it. And I was like, right there is a portal to the spirit world. Sure enough, as soon as we get there, he goes, tell David what you told me. And I tell David exactly what I had saw on just by looking at a map. Not knowing anything of the location. I said, there's a portal, and I stood exactly where I was pointing. And David's eyes, I mean, they didn't light up, but they're like, what the hell? That kind of expression, because exactly where I was standing, where I pointed out on the map without knowing anything, is when his house was being built, a 5-gallon bucket of water tipped uphill, which is impossible.
Oh, absolutely. But it makes sense with what activity there is in that house. Oh, and I remember they're called Precious Moments dolls. So that's where we were, the Precious Moments Museum and Chapel in Kansas. So, or is it Missouri? One of those two states. Yeah. But, I mean, the stuff that I experienced at David's house, and when we were going to do like a seance or something one time, I just kind of started walking around the house, and I went down into the Jack Johnson area, and there was a member from Caddyshack, the little groundhog, or the gopher. Mm-hmm. Well, he had one of those moving, the gophers, like the electronic ones. Yeah, when I went down there, it started moving on its own. What's that?
I remember that thing all too well.
The one that he had in his house?
Yeah. He even had it.
Yeah. It just started moving when I went down there.
Okay. And, like I said, a lot of things happened there that a lot of people probably have never got to experience unless they'd gone on the ghost tours. And my team was part of the team that helped run the ghost tours. I was the guy that usually sat outside monitoring all the cameras and everything like that. But
you were like Specs in the Insidious?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean,
I love that series. They're some of my favorite movies. That's why, and I know Lin Shaye really well. I was actually a guest of hers at Insidious 3 when they held a premiere at the Chinese theater, and it was so cool. I mean, people in Hollywood, they freak out over everything anyway, but people were like shivering and stuff. It was like, all right, and I'm coming out smiling.
Yeah, and
going like, woo.
Yeah, and of course, my team, it was just basically 3 of us, because I was the camera person, the tech guy, because I know a lot of technology, which I learned on my own, but I learned a lot of technology. If I didn't know it, I would learn it pretty quickly. Steve,
absolutely. My brain works the same way.
Steve, who was the one that I was talking about driving, he was the guy that would help go around with people that on the tour to kind of give them an idea of what happens where and everything like that. And then we had our psychic, Lilia, which I don't know, you probably met at David's house. She goes there quite often.
When I was working on the book, I didn't meet too many of the people that had been involved with the house before or since. So we were kind of on a one-on-one level because we wanted to focus on the book without too many distractions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you had been there any other time besides when working on the book.
No, there was one other time, but it was still just him. And we were having a barbecue. It was actually when the book was finished.
Okay.
And we decided, to have a barbecue kind of as a thank you to do the book. Mm. And what's funny is I know you've probably seen him do this a lot of times, but, he was trying to turn the spare ribs or whatever he was cooking, and he would just kind of blurt out of nowhere. He goes, oh, I know, I need to put more sauce on it, or, things like that. And
yeah.
So it's almost like the ghosts were telling him, how to cook.
Yeah. And I know David knows how to cook really well.
Right. But it was just funny at first hearing it because I couldn't hear anything, and he was more in tune with, I guess, them. Okay. Then, and then he would say, Sharon, I know. And it was mostly dealing with her, instead of some of the other ghosts that were there.
Yeah. Now, you probably heard of Gwendolyn, the little girl on the 3rd level, the guest bedroom. About
absolutely.
Her. Yeah, I was the first one. And every time I would show up, she was wanting me to meet her first. Just because for some reason we had that connection. I mean, we had, she would play the little keyboard. We didn't have the keyboard at first when I first met up with her because it wasn't really, I think it was around the 1st or 2nd tour that we did. But we did have like a little ball, and then I picked up on her right away in that bedroom because back then, I would step away from the cameras. I don't think we had all those cameras. But anyways.
Right. But had he had his camera set up, his security system at the time, like his house cameras, did he have that closed circuit already hooked up then?
No, because at first it was me and Steve and one other guy that we decided to part ways with, but that other guy had all the cameras, so we ended up showing up early to run all the wires down to the 3rd level on the side of the house just to get camera angles in there and everything like that. I think it was a year or two after I first met Dave that he started getting the cameras in there. I can't remember exactly, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, because when we did it, he was so wired up. He was capturing everything,
oh yeah, he's got
which was really, really cool.
yeah, he's got
And I even loved because a lot of times it would be nighttime, and I would go and just walk outside and walk up to the gate of where the Tate House was, which is no longer there.
yeah.
But as everyone knows, but I would feel stuff as soon as I got to the gate, and I knew there was something presential there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, show yourself, manifest." So I wouldn't really encounter a lot, but I would definitely feel things, and there were definitely orbs. I would see that,
Okay, now
but everything was in the house that I experienced more.
okay, now when you were writing the book, did David mention anything
I
about
was editing the book.
well, editing the book, but when you
Right.
talked
I
to
did
him,
have to rewrite some of it because, as much as I love David and his take on everything, I did kind of have to edit it a little
okay,
and rewrite a little bit of it.
but anyways, when you were editing, did David mention anything, or while you were editing, did you notice anything about him talking about, or was it all about his house, or was it about other locations like the Sharon Tate property, or even like the house next door? Because the reason I ask is because one time he did a 2-night investigation where the house right next door, not the new house,
Right.
but the other one that was there on the nights of the murder, he rented it out because it was on an Airbnb, but while it was
Right.
being
Oh,
sold.
he talks about that in the book.
Okay, yeah, because I actually spent the night in that house 2 nights in a row, and
Cool. I actually wanted to. He showed it to me, and we actually walked in there, and I thought this would be so cool. I mean, I wish I had. I might have had an obligation or something, but I would have loved to have done that.
yeah, because I mean, most people, I think nobody paid the price to stay that night in that house because it had a darker feel to it. But
Right.
of
The
course,
energy was a lot different.
oh yeah, and of course, even if somebody did, there was one room in there that was surrounded by mirrors. All the walls were pretty much mirrors, except for one wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
remember.
that was the wall. That was the room I slept in.
And did you hear, feel anything, see anything?
No, I was actually pretty sound asleep. Now, our psychic also stayed in that house that night, and she slept on the lower level. Well, she heard banging upstairs at night, probably in the morning hours, early morning hours, and thought it was me up and about. But I was actually still sound asleep. I sleep pretty darn soundly, so I did not hear it. I did not feel anything while I was sleeping, but I definitely felt the energy. But of course, when I go into a location, I like to be surrounded by that white light, so that way
It's
I'm not
open.
gonna be attacked.
Right.
But
And I welcome it. People go to me. It's like, oh, it's so morbid. Like, you want all of these entities to just kind of come out, promote it. I mean, I love Ouija, and I love doing seances. And I went to a wedding on Halloween a bunch of years ago with some friends of mine who got married, and actually spent the honeymoon and invited all of us to the haunted hotel. It's up in like the Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear area.
okay,
And I can't remember the name of the hotel, but we brought this one guy. He's really big. He's kind of a character actor, and he does a lot of stuff for like Fangoria magazine. And he's like really into horror, but I think he's just a big chicken. He's like 6'10", and we were all staying in different rooms. And one of the rooms that he stayed in had some activity. He freaked out, and he wouldn't like sleep with the door closed, and he wanted to come out, and he was like coming up to us freaking out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll switch rooms and stuff. So he was like, no, that's all right, I'll stay in the room. And it was just so funny watching a guy that big scared like an elephant being scared of a mouse, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, and this is his voice, because he does a lot of acting that way. He goes, hello, this is Bud, and I'm like so scared right now. It's like I think I need to sleep somewhere else. And I'm going like, Pat, it's fine. Do you want me to sleep on the floor? And he's like, no, that's all right. I can handle it. But he was shaking, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then there was the basement there that supposedly had a lot of activity, but everyone else left, and I stayed there by myself and felt a couple of things there. I welcome it. I stay overnights in cemeteries. I've been seeing paranormal stuff since I was a kid.
Okay, yeah. See, I saw my first spirit when I was 5 years old, so it never really scared me. And then, of course, I was born the day after Christmas, and actually the same day, the same year that The Exorcist came out in theaters. So,
that's when you were born?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I got you by a few years.
Yeah. But like I said, I was born on the same day that The Exorcist came out in theaters. So,
cool.
Being born right after Christmas, I never really cared for Christmas. I celebrate it, but I don't really care for it. That's why I tell a lot of people Halloween is my Christmas.
Oh, totally. I love a lot of the holiday. Anything from like October 1st to January 1st is my season. But yeah, Halloween, I celebrate all year round. If you saw where I live, I'm like a walking horror museum. Between my bobbleheads, I've got ghost dolls. I found one here in West Virginia. I've got like a possessed Raggedy Ann. I even took some of them, and I have an Amish doll too. And I made a short film with them during quarantine out here. And it's called Dolls in Quarantine. And I entered a couple of horror film festivals, and we won one of them. And it's up on YouTube or Vimeo if they want to go watch it. It's like a 5-minute film, and it's called Dolls in Quarantine. And in it, even the catch for the slug line is, even dolls can go crazy when in quarantine, when trapped inside. So Raggedy Ann goes ballistic, and she just kind of loses it. And what's funny is they're watching House on Haunted Hill when this whole thing transpires. Wow. It's cool, but it's funny, and it kind of has a scream at the end of it, like a nice jump scare. So I think people would like it, and the people at the horror thing, it was like, what was it? The Legends of Horror, something like that. But it'll be on the YouTube channel and stuff, so people can go watch that.
All right.
So yeah, I love stuff. I've been to cemeteries out here. As I said, I think this part of West Virginia where I live is one of the scariest, most kind of active places in America.
Yeah, and I've been to a lot of places. I haven't been to any real haunted locations in West Virginia. I've been to West Virginia, just never been to a haunted location there. But
well, you've heard of the penitentiary, right? The Moundsville Penitentiary, where Manson actually was before he went to California, because that's where they caught him.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Excuse me. I'm friends with Lauren Coleman, and I would love to get his take on like the Mothman and everything like that, because all that kind of stuff fascinates me.
Oh, absolutely. I've been to like it wasn't an overnight, but it was kind of like a haunt. And, I went with my cousin who's really into that. She was visiting from New Jersey, and we experienced some. But then, you get this. I hate going on these group things because you always get the skeptics, and all they're doing is wanting to talk, and they never listen and shut up. And I'm like telling them, if you want to see a ghost or listen, shut up, or you're going to be seeing more than ghosts. And it's so frustrating when you get people like that, especially the skeptics and stuff.
Well, now
But
skepticism is healthy to a certain extent. I mean, you don't want to be going in and believing everything is paranormal related, because it could be just something. So I tend
well,
to...
yeah, there's logical explanations, but when you're trying to do this, it's more annoying. It's like someone talking at a movie. That's the irritating part. Yeah, you could be a skeptic and not believe. I mean, believe me, when it comes to things, I'm one of the biggest skeptics, especially when it comes to things in government and politics and Hollywood. But, if I'm there to try to find something, the last thing I need is someone to keep talking, when I'm trying to kind of tune in. So, I mean, that's the only part of it. They can be skeptic all they want, and that's fine. But it just, there's a time and place for that. And I like it when I'm there to just deal with it. And, But it would have been funny if we were doing a TV show, the way I talk to him. Because, I'm so not like a boring person who just goes, did you see that? And I'm like so scared right now. So I just laid into him and I said, take your skepticism and go lock yourself in a cell for a day and then let me know how you feel. Yeah, and if you're still a non-believer, we'll let you out.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a moment. But we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal, music, and comedy. We'll be right back. And of course, Dave, I won't be able to talk to you during the commercial break. I forgot to mention that before.
Got the feeling in your bones, make you feel right at home. Does it well, keep me dancing till I'm dead. 'Cause I could run a mile like this, head over heels for some this. The sun has got me on my track, I ain't never looking back. I ain't looking back. I ain't looking back. I ain't looking back.
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's radioguestlist.com. Sign up today. It's free.
To advertise on Talk in the Night, send an email to talkinthe.night@outlook.com. Talk in the Night has plans to fit your budget. Get your product or business heard around the world by the Talk in the Night listening audience. Plans include 30-second spots and banner ads on the show's website and mentioned on the social media sites. So get your product or business heard around the world today. Shop the Talk in the Night merch store today and pick up one of the many products with 9 different designs to choose from. The store has men's and women's apparel, drinkware, houseware, and accessories. Pick up a t-shirt, coffee mug, or anything else on there and support the show today. Go to talkinthe.night.com to find a link to the merch store.
Lunch dates and coffee breaks, Tuesdays and random days. It's how we spend the worst days of our lives. Your sister doesn't like me much. Your father thinks that I'm a nut. Your son and daughter just don't wanna choose. Think it's time to get away and see. There's a big old world and it's calling you and me. Seattle's cold and I don't like New Orleans.
And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal music and comedy. And before the break, we were talking about locking people up in a cell and everything. It brought back a thought that a lot of... I noticed on a lot of ghost shows, I won't name which one, but anyways,
Right.
At Alcatraz, there is a solitary confinement cell that nobody wants to go in alone. Nobody wants to go in with the lights out, and nobody wants to go in there with the door closed. I want to do all three. Go in there alone at night with the door closed and the lights out.
Would they still allow that? I mean, are they still doing that?
I don't know if they would allow it, but that's what I would love to do, because when I do an investigation and stuff like that, I love wandering off by myself, because I love to be able to hear that quiet, because when you got a large group, and I love David to death with doing the group tours and stuff like that to allow people to experience that. But when you get that many people in one small location, you tend to get voices, and of course that's where it fuels the skeptics to think, well, you heard just somebody whispering or somebody talking upstairs or something like that. And a lot of times that's not the case, but if you do have that large of a group, you tend to get those voices that are not paranormal related.
Right. So it distracts from, that's why I was saying before, it distracts from what's real, what you really are there for. And that's why if someone keeps talking, it totally disrupts everything that you're trying to get. Oh, and I remember the place that Dolls in Quarantine won. It was Kings of Horror. They're the ones that it won the award with. So that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, and since I've been out here, I've had so many experiences, and, I thought, if you'd like, I could share some of the other experiences I've had, not only since I've been here, but things that have happened kind of over my lifetime that helped me to really gain an understanding and appreciation of the paranormal, and the fact that, once we die, we just don't go nowhere. It's kind of like the in-between world of the spirits and God. And, before you go to heaven, I think there's still that space, that sort of otherworldly trap that some of the spirits and energy, which everyone who knows anything about energy, is that it doesn't dissipate, it doesn't die, it just moves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you'd like, I can tell you some of my scarier stuff.
Sure, I would love to hear it.
Okay, the first one is I'm Lutheran, and there's a couple in California when I was there that I was very close to. They're from Maryland, and they were an older couple. Well, anyway, they had moved back to Maryland, and one day I'm just walking, and I get a call, and the husband had passed away. So suddenly I get a call from his old phone number on my cell phone. I answer it, and just like in that Twilight Zone episode where the phone line goes down by the grave and it's calling his widow, I'm hearing this weird voice going like, "Peggy's in the hospital." And I'm like, "What?" And it's like, "Peggy's in the hospital." And I'm going, "Don, is this you?" "Peggy's in the hospital." And then it just cuts out. I call it back and the number's disconnected. So I called our pastor, and he had told me that his widow Peggy was in the hospital with a leg infection, and they weren't sure she was going to make it, and wanted to make sure that I knew to get in touch with her. So fortunately, she survived it, but the fact that he was calling to warn me because we were so close, I thought that was so amazing, and I was so grateful that he called and to let me know. But, to other people, it would probably be freaky and stuff like that. But to me, that was awesome. And then one time out here, I go to there's a local cemetery called the Oakwood Cemetery, and there's some of the stones that date back to the Civil War, even one back to the Revolutionary War. and it's one of the oldest, and it's kind of like one of those Night of the Living Dead cemeteries where it's on a hill. There's like the dirt paths that go through it. There's woods all over. It overlooks the river. There's deer that come there. One time I was there on Halloween, and it was my first Halloween here, and it was raining. So I was up there, and I was talking to someone, a friend of mine, on the phone, and I was standing next to this one grave, and as we're talking, this voice comes and interrupts in the middle of it, and it was a male voice, and I couldn't exactly hear what it was saying, but it was either giving us a warning or it was giving us a message, but it just kept interrupting. And I said to my friend, I said, "Do you hear that too?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she thought maybe it was like someone nearby, it was the radio, it was interference on the phone, but it disappeared, like, and stopped and ceased probably about a minute later. And then I looked at the tombstone, and the name, I sort of got a name that was coming through, and I shined my flashlight on it. It was actually the name of the person that was trying to talk to us. Wow. And I thought that was so cool. But, you know, of course, the thing is, you try to get these things back, as you know, and you can't. It's almost like you can't reproduce it. And then one time I was up there, and this was during the day, and I was taking pictures, and I wanted to take a selfie next to one of the cemetery, the tombstones, and suddenly it goes into like multiplay, and it took about 10 pictures, like you're on autopilot, and it's all of them were of me just looking normal, but there was one that was turned on an angle with a weird red glow on it. Wow. And I had said to whoever was doing it, I said, "Could you guys stop doing that, whoever is doing that?" Mm-hmm. And so I showed some people, and they couldn't understand. I showed some photographers. They couldn't understand how something like that could happen. So I still have those pictures. They're really, really cool. So then I went back to the library where I've experienced a lot of stuff, and I'm friends with the people there. No sooner had I walked in to tell them about this experience than there's a kitchen adjacent to the main room. I saw like a coffee container, like Folgers, and a cup, and a couple other things fly off the counter. Like literally as I'm telling them this story. And they're all witnesses too. They saw it also. I've seen books fly off the shelves in the library. It's definitely a haunted library. Which is really, really cool. Yeah. So those are just some of the things that I've experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a whole lot of interesting stories, places I've been. Of course, living here in Fort Worth, the stockyards, I tend to go there quite often just to visit with the spirits there. There's a place that I went once. I haven't been back yet, but I want to go back to check it out at night, but it's called Goatman's Bridge, and when I was there, I was going to film a YouTube video there for one of my channels, and the day that I went, it decided to pour down rain with thunderstorms, and I was like, shoot, I can't get, so I ended up doing a Facebook Live while I was there, and I ended up speaking with somebody, and they talked about they had friends physically tossed off the bridge by unseen force.
Were they hurt?
I believe they were hurt, but they weren't killed. But I mean, because it's not really that high of a bridge, and I think there is water below it, but people just were literally picked up and tossed over the bridge by unseen force. Wow. So I would love to go there and try and capture. Well, not like a person, maybe set up a mannequin or a dummy or something like that, just to see if the spirits would actually pick it up and toss it over.
Right. They might be smarter than you think, though, and go like, "Oh, we're not going to take a fake mannequin to do it." Yeah. Because some of them, people go, they're just spirits. They don't know what they're doing. They're just lost souls. They're just, the energy passing through dimensional time. But, some of them are not as stupid as, most people give them credit for.
Yeah, now a lot of them, I think there are some darker energies there, or darker entities as I call them. Because I'm Wiccan, and of course there is people that practice satanic worship in the surrounding forest, our wooded area around there. So I wouldn't be surprised if something darker is there at night. But of course, I went during the day because I was gonna film something during the day and then another segment at night. But like I said, the thunderstorm kind of kept that away.
Right. See, and I live for that, like Ouija boards. I definitely am a witch and Wiccan supporter, so I'm kind of fine with that. And I'm really into cool, which is weird because being a cartoonist and a writer and a comedian, being into all that stuff, people kind of look at me weird, but I'm fine with it. Being a weird nerd, horror freak, I totally love all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's you might have heard of this place, the California Institute of Abnormal Arts.
I believe I have.
It's in Burbank, North Hollywood, Burbank, and I filmed one of my TV shows, my Professor Creepy Scream Party that you introduced, and boy, we experienced some stuff there. They have the actual, I guess you would call it the body of an old clown, like an old French clown from early 1900s who's embalmed in some sort of copper or something, and he's preserved there, so in like a glass casket, and a lot of weird stuff happens there. And they've done ghost hunts there, a lot of people have shot stuff there, but it is one of the coolest, freakiest places that I've ever been, and I said, that's where we have to shoot this. So he's got like monkey paws and moving pictures and just a lot of weird things. So it's been written up in a lot of the kind of the weirdest places of America, and it's really cool place to go. So if you're ever back there, you need to get in touch with Carl Crew. People can find him on Facebook, and he'll give you a private tour of that place. But yeah, there's some freaky stuff. When I was moving to West Virginia, I stopped at a place called, what was the name of that place? It was in Missouri. And
it's hard to think because I don't think I've ever been to or read anything about any haunted locations in Missouri, but of course.
Well, it was a town. They kind of call it a town, but it's based on like farting. Let's see. I'd have to look it up, but it was one. They have a freak museum there. They've got a woman that runs it as kind of like a distortionist and a sword eater and stuff, and it's one of the really coolest places, and it's right there. Oh, give me a second. I will tell you exactly what it is.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, like I said, there a lot of locations that I've gone to have not been famous or anything.
It's called Uranus.
Okay.
The town of Uranus.
Wow. What a town.
So
name.
all the jokes are about that. Like they have a fudge store in there, and they said you never had fudge until you've had it in Uranus.
Oh, jeez. Bad puns.
They even have the mayor of Uranus.
Wow. There are a lot of weird town names across the country.
Weird stops and stuff. And
yeah. But yeah, a lot of locations that I've been to, there's been plenty of big name locations like Tombstone, the Queen Mary, and stuff like that I've been to. But
I've experienced some stuff on the Queen Mary too.
But as far as the more interesting stuff, I've been more private locations. I
prefer private locations that have never really been explored. Like I said, there's haunted tunnels not too far from here, and I've seen some weird stuff too. There have been a lot of deaths associated with that tunnel. It was an old train tunnel, and there were people killed because the trains were derailed and things and crashes. So, yeah, I prefer places like that.
Yeah, like one case I worked on, it was I didn't name it, but others, the team that I was working with, named it the Demon Behind the Garage case. And people at that house were messing with the darker side of the cult. And they had upside down crosses with burlap sacks wrapped around them and blood on them. And I did a cleansing, and I told them that if it's up to you to keep this darker spirit away, I can only chase it out of here. But to get...
Right. Well, yeah, people want to kind of keep it.
Yeah, and well, they did.
Some people like that.
They did, and we got called back out. We're standing out in the middle of the street, and this lady was kicking out the client that we were supposed to be there to talk to, her own sister, and she was out on the porch sweeping. We all noticed she was fine. She was talking to us nice and everything. We stayed out on the street waiting for the client to talk to her, and she was nice about it. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed these red glowing eyes on the side of the garage. Even our psychic didn't even notice it, but I noticed it, and until it happened, she didn't notice, but I noticed it, and it went from the side of the garage right into this lady, and right away her demeanor changed. And that was
was that recorded?
No, unfortunately we did not think to record it. Unfortunately, it would have been nice, but we were there to talk with the client to set up a meeting to come back and get rid of this and hopefully fix the situation, but that didn't happen.
Right. Do you believe in saging? Because, people always say, you want to get rid of the spirit house, you sage it, and that, I don't think that is specifically effective, because I've seen it also where it hasn't done anything. Some people will put a ritual behind it too, but I think unless you really have maybe some sort of religious sort of exercise, that sage from a person who's like a self-proclaimed guru or something, or exorcist, I really think, because the devil and God are the ones that fight with each other and are the opposite forces of good and evil, I think it's going to be God's messengers who are actually going to be the ones that do anything. I think just your average person is not going to do it.
Yeah, well, I got a funny story to tell about sage, and it has to do with David Oman's house, but to me, it's the intent that you put into it. Sage is just a tool. If you put that right intent into it, then it will be effective. If you put the bad intent into it, that's what you're going to get out of it, and so forth. But anyways, to tell you the funny story about the sage, it was on the anniversary. David was doing a tour on the anniversary of the murders, and I forget what anniversary it was, but I was downstairs with a couple of people on the tour. David was upstairs with TMZ, and right as the clock struck the time that the murders happened, the smoke alarm went off. Well, we were using sage on the lower level, and we forgot to open up the windows. So TMZ ran with that story. And
David, of course they did.
David came down. What the hell? We thought it was. Yeah. I mean, I don't really like to use
well,
sage.
That's why
we forgot to open up the windows.
And I know people that have used sage, and it hasn't been effective. And I don't know if they're pretend people like I always find it funny. And I remember the name of that show. It's called Paranormal Caught on Tape, which is the only one that I actually kind of believe, because they actually aren't ones looking for it. It's just stuff that happens. Yeah. But anyway, I've been to some places where, these fakars, as I call them, will go around with the sage and do their little rituals and their incantations, and nothing happens. And then what happens later is they're proven as a fake. And a lot of them, too, will charge. The one thing I don't like is the ones that charge people money, like to clean their houses and stuff like that. Because to me, if you're going to do it, it's got to be something, because God does not want you to charge for things that you do for other people like that.
Now, every once in a while, I'll charge for like doing psychic readings and stuff like that, because it takes a lot of energy out of me to do that. But as far as doing like cleansing, I'll tell you a story about one place that private residence, we did it, and she wanted to give us money, and we're like, no, we do not charge for the investigations. We don't charge for a cleansing or anything like that. If you want to donate the money to like Children's Hospital, Loma Linda, that's fine. Do that in our name, but we don't want the money.
Right. There's certain things, yes, but I'm a purist when it comes to that. I have my career, and I love doing the paranormal stuff. And of course, if someone hires me to be on a TV show, I definitely want to get paid there, because they're making a friggin' fortune off the advertising. But when it comes to just people I want to help, then no, I will. I do it for the love also. I just want to get out there and see all of this stuff and experience it, and that's why I do want to do. I have a couple of new TV projects, and one is built around the paranormal. And I've got a lot of friends who are also kind of spiritually psychic and connected that I'm going to do it. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be one where we will get celebrity guests. We will kind of make it kind of a comedy, but we will also be very serious about it, because we really want to experience stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And that's been my love the whole time. That's a lot of my writing, and the TV shows I have out now are 90% built around horror and slasher films. I wrote one called Slumber Party Slashover, and I have it now with a director who's reading it, but oh my God, it freaks people out when they read it, because it's so original. It kind of combines elements of slasher movies and Scream, The Conjuring. There's psychic phenomenon in it. It's got I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of elements to it. But, one time I was actually writing a horror script in the dark. This one I was still living in California, because I always write my horror with all the lights out except for the laptop. The light coming from there, and I'm typing away, and I'm listening to organ music or some sort of scary Halloween soundtrack. Well, one time I was right in the middle of a really spooky scene, and the phone rings, and I practically jumped out of my chair, because I was like, holy crap, what the hell was that? But the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Oh, trust me. I know all about that. I think it was in my late teens. I was sitting out in the living room of my parents' house at midnight in a recliner watching Halloween 3, I think it was. And at midnight,
Season of the Witch, the best one.
The lights out, everything like that, just the TV screen. And right as the scary part was getting ready, you heard the music, you know it was coming. Because I love horror, so I don't really get scared. But at that point, right as the scary part was getting ready to hit, an earthquake hit. So I jumped up real quick and ducked down beside the chair like, shit, Michael Myers is coming after me.
Well, the only thing is Mike wasn't in the third one, so it would have had to have been like, one of those cyborgs and stuff that he built.
Yeah. I think it was
but
but I mean, that was just my thought process. Like, shit, I'm going to get attacked.
Right. It's funny you mentioned Halloween, because Trancas Films, Mustafa Akkad and his family, Malik Akkad, optioned one of my projects a few years back, and they're still doing all the Halloweens, except I got to say the new Halloweens suck. Yeah. Being a writer, I'm really big on dialogue and continuity, and great endings. And these friggin' movies, these last bunch of Halloweens, have been nothing but, you might as well have called them Hallow Sharknado or Hallonado because the scripts were so bad. And I'm like, good thing I didn't go to the movies. I saw them like for free on some of those streaming platforms, because I would have asked for my money back on it. It's just been, that's the thing. It's like, there's so many people who, because of a genre, they pretend to be part of it and understand it, but they're just kind of hacks. Netflix is a great example of that. They just like spew out horror movies that are just horrible, and there's no thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
That's why, people really seem to take to my stories, because, I put a lot of emphasis on it. And I'll watch, if I watch a really bad horror movie, I will have to watch a good horror movie to get the taste out of my head. I'll see a bad possession movie, so then I have to go watch like The Conjuring or and other James Wan movies or something to get that out.
Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour, so we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about paranormal music and comedy, and also after the commercial break, brain fart, but after the commercial break, we'll have the phone lines open and the speaker chat open if you want to ask my guests questions. We'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Blue eyes open wide, side to side, just trying to find it again. It's about time you and I forget about everything. Love is bound, it isn't blind.
The weather is getting warmer and people are out and about. Well, if you love ghost hunting, now is the time to pick up some new gear. GhostStop.com has a wide variety of equipment to choose from, and one of those items is Blue Buddy. He's back. The talking bear every investigator wants on their team. Click on the Ghost Stop banner ad at the top of the show's website and pick up your Blue Buddy today. Go to spring.com and sign up to create your own design or choose from a design from one of the many creators on there. Spring has ways to integrate your store on social media, custom stores, and they have digital and physical products. While you're there, check out the Talk in the Night merch store. To get started with Spring today, click on the banner ad on the Talk in the Night website. Go to the show's website and click on the links for each of my guests and purchase a book or other product that they may be promoting. Without them, there would be no Talk in the Night. Whether you're interested in the paranormal, conspiracy, technology, health, relationships, or any other topic the show covers, my guests have something for you. Check it out today on talkingthenight.com. Call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal music and comedy. And before the break, real quick before I mention that, The phone lines are open. Also on Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account, and then you can chat in the chat if you want to ask my guests any questions about the paranormal or anything like that. That's available for you. Also, the Skype number, Skype name, Talking the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280. All right, so before the break, you were talking about we were talking about movies and horror movie genre and everything like that. And I started writing a screenplay a few years back. I haven't done much on it lately. I thought about, instead of restarting the show and everything like that, spending my semi-retired time working on that, because
what's semi-retired? I will never retire. I think I'm going to be working until I'm dead. And then I'll come back as a ghost and work that way.
Yeah, well, see, I'm 100% disabled from the VA, so from my military service.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm semi-retired that way, but I'm not
right.
retired.
Well, I got to thank you then for your service. To me, I have a lot of family in military, and I respect people in the military more than anybody.
Yeah, but the unsemi-retired part is doing this pretty much kind of full-time, even though I'm working part-time hours. But I'm not only the show's host, I'm also the show's producer, the sound engineer, the voiceover artist, the booking agent, the promotion crew, the webmaster.
You're like every independent filmmaker out there.
Yeah, so I'm doing it all myself. Eventually I'll hire people to where I can relax a little more, and get back to working on the screenplay. But the screenplay is kind of based on a true events that happened at the David Oman house. And I don't want to give out the title of the screenplay. I'll let you know later in email. But anyways, it happened because we were watching I was watching one of the cameras on one of the tours, and this lady was in the third level guest bedroom, and she started to walk out of the room into the theater room, and then slowly backed up, sidestepped to the right, kind of looked at the mirror, sidestepped back to the left, started to walk back out again, and then slowly backed up, sidestepped to the left this time, right the first time, left the second time. I think I messed that up, but anyways. And then she walked right into the mirror and started screaming uncontrollably, like she was being pulled into a portal.
Oh, wow.
So,
and how long did you guys run up and
David actually had to be was down there or pretty close by. He was either in the theater room or the earthen wall room, and he came in, turned on the lights pretty quickly. Like, everything's okay, and they called me down there because they know my abilities, and sure enough, there was some kind of energy coming from that mirror. But
I think I'm familiar. I know that mirror because I actually walked by it too.
Yeah, and there is some kind of energy in that mirror, from that mirror. And I think it has to do with either the theater room or the earthen wall room. Now, on the other side of that wall where the mirror closet is, one time we were going down to clean up all the cameras that we had brought with us before David bought all his cameras. And one guy went down there, he was picking up the equipment, and he was looking for a digital recorder. They lent somebody on the group, and sure enough, one of his UCLA teddy bears came flying off the shelf, and we caught it on camera.
Oh, that's cool. They see that happens a lot there that I experienced.
Yeah, but like I said, I started writing this horror movie, kind of basing it off of that, but also added in my little own effects because of my love for horror, like the start will be like something like a car driving down the other side up over by Falcon's Lair and seeing a ghost turning into the hillside, hitting the wall, and then kind of backing, getting the spirit pushing the car over the edge and having it tumbling down the hill. And that's what creates the haunting.
Right.
So, I mean...
that could be kind of interesting if you take it like to a really scary level and a really scary direction.
Well, see, like you mentioned Insidious, I mean, that is my kind of scare factor type of horror genre. I mean, like me, like I said, Halloween is my favorite time. I create my own mask, latex prosthetics. I've even done one thing where one Halloween I was working at a small amusement park, and I pretty much walked up on these kids and had them in the fetal position while I stood over them.
See, that I love stuff like that, and most of my friends are in the horror world, like of the actors. Michael Berryman's a really good friend, and Erwin Keyes was, rest in peace. I've worked with him. He's the one from House of a Thousand Corpses and Warriors and things. And I actually have Doug Bradley attached to a project. But for me, the reason I love the Insidious and the Conjuring world, even, subsequently, with The Nun and then Last Key, I still think they all hold up because, one, so many people... I worked on this one guy's horror movie. It was his very first one in New York before I moved to L.A., and it's a terrible movie. Trauma picked it up. Well, he said, because it was shot in like 1989, and then Scream came out, and I'm really good friends with Jamie Kennedy because I worked with him at National Lampoon. Well, he said that Wes Craven stole his idea for Scream from this movie he did, and I'm going like, that's so pathetic. You stole that idea from other things, because how many movies from the 60s and 70s have broken the fourth wall and talked about how a movie, and a character would go when they were in a horror movie and blah, blah, blah. I said, so your idea isn't the most original, but it's kind of like a hack writer and director, and he just seems to not come up with anything that's really, really creative, but he just keeps spewing out. And I said, I'd rather have 5 amazing films that are iconic and people will want to watch 30 years from now than something that's like kind of a bin movie at the 99-cent store, or something that just winds up on the Monster Channel. But even on the Monster Channel, because I've had some stuff on the Monster Channel, and some of even those old movies, I love the classic old horror movies. Even some of the cheaper ones, like that Bela Lugosi did and things like that. So I prefer those kind of things. So when I see a script, like maybe what you're talking about, if you can get the right director and producer, cast and everything, as long as the script holds up, I think you can make a classic.
Oh, yeah.
And sadly, a lot of horror isn't like that these days.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've seen David's film. It's a good film, but, I mean, it's like one of those B movies that, I mean, it...
Oh, you mean his version of The Ghost in Cielo Drive, that movie?
Yeah. The movie he produced and everything like that. Like I said, it's...
Right, yeah, I saw that.
But it just didn't seem like it would stand the test of time to hit, like, theaters in the big screen and everything like that. And,
well, he didn't have a budget for that, so that was really tough.
Yeah, true about that. But yeah,
right. And it's but unless you have like a Blair Witch Project, but that's because everyone in Hollywood thinks they're the most creative person out there, and that everyone will dictate how hard. How like they'll say this is how you get a movie sold. This is how you get a movie produced. This is how you write a movie, make a movie. And then you look at their body of work and you go, oh my gosh, why should I listen to you? It's like a plastic surgeon who ruins everybody's face and says, oh, I know what I'm doing. And I said, well, look at the results. So it's more than just people telling people that they can do something. And sometimes it makes it hard because they have such a limited thinking that, it's hard to break through. And it's the same in the paranormal world. It's like I always say, anybody can go out and get an EVP machine, and a voice recorders and cameras and, flare cameras and things like that. But that's just equipment anybody could buy on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It takes more than that to make a good paranormal investigator.
Yeah, it takes that dedication. It takes that interest. The thinking that I'm going to go into this location. I want to see something, but I know there is a chance that I'm going to sit there 30 minutes in the dark by myself and not catch anything. And you got to be willing to also enjoy doing something like that.
Right. Do you have a favorite on-air horror person? Like, do you know who Susan Slaughter is?
I don't think I've ever heard her name.
Oh my God, she's one of the talking heads on like Paranormal Caught on Tape and Aliens Caught on Tape, and she's one of the most legitimate ones. Plus, she's really cute, but she just comes across as one of the more exciting ones that I would actually want to work with. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she seems to know what she's doing, and I have a little more faith in her ability than some of the others, because they'll make them talk like they're all experts. Even when something looks fake, they'll be like, "Well, I've never seen anything like that. Oh my gosh, that's probably an entity that really hates things." Or they'll see like Bigfoot and they'll go like, "Well, that's so close, and that's the best footage, and he's walking on 2 feet." And meanwhile, you could see the Made in Japan tag on the back of the costume.
Yeah.
But they'll still try to justify it as a real Sasquatch and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's just so funny.
Yeah. And, of course, if you get, like, a clear image, you're either very lucky or you set the stage that up because, like I think I mentioned it last night on the air, or it might have been last Friday or something like that. But if you notice a lot of sightings of UFOs or Sasquatch and everything, they're going to be blurry. They're going to be moving around because try imagine holding a phone or a camera up steady. It's not happening. Your hands are always going to shake a little bit, and you're trying to move around.
I'm good at that. I'm a great cameraman when it comes to that. A lot of the images that I catch, I've done a lot of regular video stuff, and I could hold my phone still, and you would get a crystal clear picture. So, like when I did ones up at the cemetery, But the thing is also a lot of them are amateurs. They don't know depth of field. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to focus. Even on iPhones and Androids, you could still, do live focus and you could do pro focus. Mm. So, there's way around it. But yeah, I just find it kind of, you would think with all the high def technology now that they still can't capture like a friggin' clear picture.
Yeah, and of course, I actually before I had to quit college, and I wish I could go back, but because of health reasons, I can't. But I was actually going to school for radio, television, and film, and I thought, okay, I wanted to do it because, like I said, I know all the aspects of radio or internet radio. I just needed help in the marketing sector. But when I started taking classes on film and learning, of course, it was over the internet because it was during the pandemic, but or as I call it, the pandemic. But
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah,
That's for the political show.
Yeah, that we covered on Monday. But anyways, we had to do it online, so I couldn't really get in there and work with the equipment and stuff like that. But we learned about filming techniques and everything like that, like the different shots, like wide shot, extreme wide shot, medium shot, cowboy shot, everything like that. And
Dolly and transition shots and panning and pan and scan, zoom, like, all that.
Yeah, and of course I was like, okay, I'm gonna get through college. I'm gonna finish my screenplay, and I'm gonna become a horror film director, and everything. Like I said, I'll eventually finish that screenplay. I just don't know exactly when, but
we'll try not to wait too long.
Yeah, I don't want to be in my 60s, and but I mean,
hey, what's wrong with being in your 60s? I'm in my 60s.
I don't know.
But I don't mind telling you. It's like I have friends who are older than dirt. In fact, they are dirt.
But anyways, yeah. No, I just don't want to wait too late in life to get that done. But I do want to get it done to where, because I mean, I got a feeling that this film, once it's done and kind of edited and everything, because I learned everything kind of before I started taking classes. I learned how to write the screenplay, how to do different shots,
structure, and
like
direction,
shots,
and
the exterior, location, time of day, everything like that. And I learned how to do that on my own. So, I mean, I was like, this is a story that needs to be told, but not almost like based on, or not based literally on a true story, but kind of taken that
loosely
event,
based and stuff, sort of inspired by or something. Well, when you're doing it, because I teach screenwriting up at Morgantown, where WVU is, and I do it through the Filmmakers Guild of West Virginia, which I'm a member. And I'm excited to say that they're reinstituting the tax incentives here. So I'm hoping to bring some of my productions here and using a lot of local talent. But I always tell my students, and they're really grateful, I said, structure is fine, breaking down direction, action, doing, transitions, things like that. But if you don't have dialogue that people will relate to, that it's cringing, then all of the great production value is for naught. And so I really, really focus on dialogue. So that's why I do a lot of table reads once I finish a script, so I can get kind of what a real feel for the movie would be if it was actually on screen. And there's nothing better than having a bunch of people sitting around reading the script. Of course, you want to get people who are kind of actor-ish, because you don't want guys who have no personality reading your script characters, because that just drags it down. So fortunately, I've had a lot of great people surrounding it and they're going and it's funny because they're so used to working on things that are just so pedestrian. When they see something that's original, it kind of freaks them out a little. Go oh my gosh, that's so different, and it just flows really well. And I go, well, that's really nice, because that's how I feel about it. I care about what people are saying, because some people say, I was bringing up Halloween before, constantly you have Jamie Lee Curtis, going die Michael die, with everybody bashing him in that last scene, and Anthony Michael Hall there, who I like Anthony and I know him. Was so miscast as Tommy Doyle that it kind of also ruined the film, because some of his dialogue was straight out of Edward Scissorhands, where he played the bully, and it kind of lost it. So to me, it's so important when you're doing this to write it that way.
Yeah.
So when you're writing your dialogue, kind of think about if you would talk that way.
Yeah, and of course, one of the characters is kind of based off of what I would think that I would be saying if I experienced this or stuff like that, but not to cast it for me, but to cast it for somebody that would kind of play it the way that I want it played.
Right. Yeah, don't write for actors, write for characters. You could always find an actor to play the part. But some people write for the actors, and then they can't get that actor, and it kind of like ruins it, and they go, where am I going to find someone like that? And so like, I always create characters based on what I envision the character, not like what the actor I want for it. Yeah, I would love to get Johnny Depp in a movie, but I don't write my characters for it, and if it fits, then that's great.
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to write like a main character to a scene, a horror film or a serious film with somebody like Chris Rock or some other comedian because it just ain't going to fit.
No, don't get me started on diversity and this cancel culture. That is ruining Hollywood, where everything has to be minority or gay or lesbian or transgender or non-binary. You know, I miss old Hollywood when it was all about the quality of the work, the characters. You know, even in ghost stories, it was all about not making it a character because of their race. It was because, like, Slumber Party Slashover, I wrote that with teen characters, and I did not put the race at all when I was putting the description of the characters. And that's, like, really sad, because I think it's ruining the Marvel universe. I think it's ruining, well, they're even getting it into the DC world. But, it's got to be some based on the characters. I never write that way. It's so funny. I was like talking to someone, and it was about the paranormal, and they were asking whether I've ever seen a black ghost. And I'm going like, what are you talking about? Like a shadow person? No, like an actual ghost of a black person. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't go out looking for black people ghosts. I said, if something happens and it's like that, then fine. But I go, that's so racist that you'd even say that to me. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't go looking out for a different color or different ethnicities of spirits. Now,
right. Like, I'll go joke. I'll say like, oh yeah, I went to Popeye's Chicken last week and I saw 2 black ghosts there. So I mean, it's just like, it's so ridiculous, and but that's kind of the world we live in, even in the paranormal world.
Yeah, like Jack Johnson, I actually saw his spirit the first day that I was met David. So I mean, but I wasn't going to look for his spirit. I was looking for just any spirit that would show up.
Right, and it just happened to be a black person that died. But it's still just a ghost. But to try to say that you have to go out and find a black ghost or something, it's so ridiculous, and I'm seeing that too. And it's kind of the same in music, because we're going to talk music, and
I want to get in that
I write a lot of horror music. I actually had a chart hit on kids radio called "I Am a Zombie" that I did with a friend of mine who was in the movie The Babysitter, and he was working with some rapper guys, and he's like this white kid. Right now he's like 6'5", he's 17, he's like bench pressing 350, 500 pounds. I mean, huge kid and stuff. So he had sort of gotten into the rap scene, how like every kid is. And so I wrote this one and did all the guitar parts because I'm also a guitarist. And we brought it to children's radio, and it actually charted on there on Jenny Radio, but it's all about being a zombie.
Okay.
But I kind of made it where the zombies were just normal people who just follow everybody else. So it's not just being a zombie, it's being an actual human zombie.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about your work and everything, and we'll get into that in the last 30 minutes of the show, but we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal, music, and comedy. We'll be right back.
All my shelters are opening. Feels like everything's crumbling. All the windows are shattering. Hold your horses, it's too cold to read. Face expressions that mean nothing. Dip your sadness in this bowl till you feel minor changes in your body.
Do you need music for your radio show, podcast, or YouTube channel, but need a music license to play it on your show? Well, go to artlist.io and check out the plans they have. They have 3 plans to choose from: personal, unlimited, and enterprise. All the music that you hear on the show is from Artlist, and there is a banner ad on the show's website. Check it out today. Do you love the strange, unusual, and weird unexplained mysteries? Do you like reading about the paranormal and other happenings? Well, I have the website for you, unexplainedmysteries.com. On there you will find so much, such as the latest news and articles, forums, news with video, and so much more. That's unexplained-mysteries.com, or you can click on the banner ad on the show's website to take you right there. Do you love history? Do you wonder what happened on this day in history? Well, check out history.com/this day in history and find out what happened on this day in recorded history. You can also click on the image on the Talk of the Night website under This Day in History and check out one of the many things that happened. The show's website lists a different event in history every day, so check it out today.
Call into the show, Skype Talk of the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk of the Night with your host, Paranormal.
Okay, and we are back with my guest, Dave Shelton, as we talk about the paranormal, music, and comedy. Now, in this last segment of the show, last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, I want to talk about some of the projects that you are a part of. And I wanted to ask, tell us where the name for your website came from, because I noticed it was part of Everybody Loves Raymond thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I created, because, I've had create so many things, that I came up with this character back in the 90s called Snuggy Bear and the T-Shirt Kids. And it was an animated TV show I created, which also kind of is going to be a live-action kids show, kind of in the vein of the Banana Splits and Yo Gabba Gabba, things like that. Mm-hmm. So Snuggy Bear came from a little stuffed bear I'd actually gotten for my ex-girlfriend. And she said, "Oh, that's so snuggly and cute. It's such a snuggly bear." So that's kind of what spawned that. And then I created the whole scenario, the show, the other characters built around that. And I thought, well, that would be a great website. So I bought the name. Actually, someone had the snuggybear.com name and the domain for like years and sat on it. Finally, it got released. So I bought it up. And so that's where snuggybear.com came from. And then I went out and I started, as I was creating more merchandising and things around it, I went looking to see if anyone had the Snuggie Bear trademark. And no one did, so I applied for that. Now I have the Snuggie Bear trademark, which, I could, anytime anyone wants to use that name, or if they're trying to sell something with the name, then I get a piece of it, or I have to give them permission if they want to use that. But I happened to, when I started working, because in my background, I started as someone that's an artist on MTV. I worked at Nickelodeon back in New York. I wound up, I was a rock journalist for Tiger Beat. I then went and I met with Tim Allen, and I worked with him and Robert Wall. I moved to California, and that's when I started at National Lampoon, and I was there for like 8.5 years. And that's where I went, Jamie Kennedy, and worked with him. And then at the same time, I was a cartoonist for Disney and worked at Tweety and Sylvester and Klasky Supo, who does Rugrats. So when I got the opportunity to write for Everybody Loves Raymond, I thought, why don't I bring those characters onto the show? And they intermingled with the kids, and they interacted, and they put them on the set. And that's kind of where that involvement came from as far as Snuggie Bear.
Okay. Now, there are a bunch of projects, and we could probably talk for about 5 hours, but my butt won't be able to handle 5 hours in the chair. But
right, I could just totally capsulize it for you.
But anyways, I mean, you got like Professor Creepy Scream Party. Is that like a animated cartoon? And where could it be seen?
Professor Creepy Scream Party is a show I created in the mid-2000s because I've always been in love with everything from horror hosts like Zachary, Elvira, things like that. And I wanted to create I've always loved little people. Martin Kleba from Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my best friends, and he's a little person. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to create a show with a little person and kind of fulfill my love of horror with variety. There was a show out of Canada with Vincent Price called The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. You might have heard of it.
I think I have.
Ran like in the early 70s, and then it got syndicated. Well, anyway, that was an inspiration. So I put together a pilot script and got the cast, and we actually shot it at the California Institute of Abnormal Arts. And it won all these awards, and it was just, we got it on the Monster Channel, and it was airing on Amazon Prime for a while. So I'm working now on selling it as a full series, and it basically is a variety horror show about this girl, this teen girl who goes into a circus freak museum, and is run by Professor Creepy, who runs a late night horror show, and there's dancers and weird guests and things. We got bands like that come on. We're gonna have like famous bands. I'm really good friends with Cheap Trick, so when we sell the show or get it produced, they're gonna be one of our guests on it. We're gonna have a lot of horror icons on it. So they said Michael Berryman and Sid Haig was attached to it, but unfortunately we lost Sid. Erwin Keyes is in it. Let's see, who else do we have? I mean, every other major horror star you could think of, we can get. I'm trying to think of some of the other good Beverly Randolph, who is in Night of the Return of the Living Dead. She's a good friend. So every horror icon, Vernon Wells. So it's just it's a really fun show, and it's a variety show.
Yeah, I can't think of the guy's name offhand, but I know the guy that played Jason Voorhees. In Friday the 13th. Yeah, the original Jason. I can't think of his name. I know David's friends with him. I met him at Midsummer Scream.
Oh, he always does horror cons and stuff.
Yeah, I met him at Midsummer Scream a few years back, and I told him and we talked about David and stuff because I knew he knew him and everything like that, just because David told me he knew him. But I ended up talking to him. I wish I would have been able to talk to Cassandra Peterson, but she
Elvira.
there was a long line of people to meet her, and then of course she was charging $50 for a signed picture. I was like,
Of course.
nope.
Oh, are you talking about Kane Hodder?
Yeah.
Okay, I know Kane really well.
Yeah, I could not think
because
of his name.
Ari Lehman was basically the first Jason because he was the kid that comes out of the water, and I know Ari really well too. But yeah, Kane is the big hulking one.
Yeah, he's a big guy. All right, so let's because we're slowly running out of time. Let's talk about.
Okay, so that's one of the projects that I have out. I created. So when I moved out to West Virginia, my background too is I did radios and NBC radio and a lot of different networks. Well, I always wanted to also create a late night horror show like Dr. Demento, who was a big inspiration radio wise. Yeah. So I came up with this character being out here called the Groovy Grave Creeper, and I built him around the show called Cemetery Go-Go because I'm really into psychedelic music. Mm-hmm. And I said, why don't I put this together as a late night horror, comedy, music, radio show? Mm-hmm. So there's a local station here, and I was friends with the guy who ran the station, and he loved the idea, and we produced it and started doing like 30 episodes or pre-recorded 1-hour shows, and it caught on huge, and now it's syndicated. We have a network in Buffalo, New York. There's one called Wacky Radio out of Maryland. All of the links to them and the scheduling is up on my website on snuggybear.com, but the Groovy Gravekeeper is just so bizarre. I mean, he introduced, because I'm a musician, I wrote the theme song and everything, and so basically his voice is like,
"This is the Groovy Grave Creeper, and you are listening to Cemetery Go-Go on WAKI Radio, Maryland."
And it's kind of like,
almost sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the beginning there.
Well, it's kind of a combination of like Boris Karloff and every other, like Zachary, and sort of like every other. Oh, also the Digger. There was an old radio show that William Bendix did, and he always talked to this guy who worked at the mortuary, who was like the mortician, and he was like a grave digger, and he kind of sounded like that. He was one of my favorite characters, so I added an element of him too. It's called The Life of Riley was the name of the show, and if anyone wants to look that up, it's the Digger from Life of Riley Radio, and his voice was just so cool. I said, I have to reproduce that. So that's where that came from, and we play everything from like classic rock, metal, psychedelic, weird oddities. I play old movie trailers, old commercials. It's really a fun show, and it's a big throwback. And I got to tell you, too, with Professor Creepy, I want to tie Cemetery Go to Professor Creepy when we actually go to series on it. And, people can see from the website the pilot episode. There's links to where they can see it and stuff. So then that, and then I created a character called Bitchy the Clown, which is my political side. Being from New Jersey, I grew up around a lot of the mob and Italians and things like that. So I actually was a clown in the circus, in Clyde Beatty Cole Brothers Circus, and I've loved clowns, since the beginning of time, since I was born. And spooky clowns, like creepy clowns. Yeah. Even Pennywise to me isn't that scary. Yeah. I mean, the Tim Curry version was a lot better than the new one. But so he has a podcast on Spotify, Apple, and he's basically a disgruntled clown who hates everything, but he's really verbose, and he gets all these weird guests, and he has his late night talk show, and is really, really low rent. So, it's really caught on because he's uncensored. He's hateful, but he's truthful. He's an equal opportunity hating clown. He has a theme song too, the Bitchy the Clown theme song, and then we wrote 2 singles for it. That's also on the website, but it's just so bizarre. And he's had some weird guests on it too. but we're planning on actually shooting a TV version of it. So that's another weird thing that I'm working on. And then there's those movies I told you about. I've got the one with Cynthia Rothrock. And yes, you did pronounce her pretty close. She's a martial arts star and has done a ton of movies. So I wrote it for her and Martin Clubb. He's the little person I told you about. And it's real. I've always loved the X-Files. I'm friends with Dean Haglund, who played one of the lone gunmen. And he's going to be in our series, too. And it takes place in Springfield, Massachusetts. And this group, they actually solve all this weird stuff about like ghosts and witches and paranormal aliens, anything you could think of, but in a whole different way, in a whole different environment, because they're not FBI, they're cops, but they're like a special unit cop. And I wrote the pilot script, and it's really, really cool.
Okay.
So hopefully David Dasmatian will be in it too. So there's that. And then the children's book, Bag Boy and Sweet Slob, which I'm finishing the second book. No, actually, the second book is coming out. The first one has won all these awards and stuff, and I'm really, really happy about that.
Now, I want to, real quick, before we get into where people can find you and stuff, but tell us a little bit about Cemetery Go-Go. Is that just on radio, or is it got video and animation to it?
No, right now it's just radio, but we plan on doing video. The character of the groovy grave creeper you could find on SnuggyBear.com, and I created this weird looking kind of subterranean but alien looking green character. Imagining the voice with what the visual would look like, and that's kind of where it stemmed from. So right now it's just that, but we're working on merchandising for it and a whole big campaign built around it and stuff. I think it's going to be a huge hit, especially with the horror crowd.
Yeah, and of course, it's a music comedy show. Now, is the music yours or from all different people?
It's from all different people. I actually do put on some of my original stuff, kind of intersperse it, but it runs the gamut of, I'll play like the Dickies, and then I'll play AC/DC, and then I'll play Eddie Money, and then I'll play the Carpenters, and it's like, and then I'll play like Fish Heads. It's just, you never know what to expect on the show. I'll also play. There's a group in LA that I'm friends with called the Rhythm Coffins. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I don't think I have.
Okay, they're a kind of a horror band, and they're really, really cool, and I've been friends with them a long time. They ride around in a hearse, so and they play a lot of really kind of cool rock and roll-y horror music. So sometimes I'll play some of their original stuff. If I have other friends who have bands, if they have original stuff, I will put it on. I also invite people to submit their original songs, and especially if they're in kind of that weird genre. So, if any of your audience happens to have that kind of stuff recorded, like in a final mix, I would love in an MP3 to listen to it, and maybe we can put it on the show.
Yeah.
So,
because
it's really cool.
Like my outro song, I took royalty-free music to instrumental to play the music, because I don't have the knowledge how to play a guitar too well, and all the equipment, and I don't have the knowledge to do the mixing down and everything like that. But as far as lyrics go and the voice, I can do. So I ended up, because my catchphrase when I sign off on the radio is, "I'll see you on the dark side." So
cool.
So that's the title of the outro song, "See You on the Dark Side," and I wrote the lyrics.
Sounds like that. What is it? Eddie and the Cruisers, "On the Dark Side."
I started when I started out doing radio as a hobby. I was using that, but I was starting to get copyright strikes, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah, they don't like that.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I got to figure out something else. And then I was like, of course, now with this, when I came back onto radio, I went out and purchased a music license from Artlist to use their music on there and everything like that. So
Right.
all the
Okay,
music
that's
for the
cool.
commercial,
That protects you better.
that protects me and everything, even though it's more royalty-free type music, but it's still, I'm protected against, I got that license so that knows that I can play those songs that I have downloaded.
Right.
And, but like the intro song and the outro song, they're all royalty-free instrumentals. And like I said, the lyrics I wrote myself for See You on the Dark Side.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear that at the end of the show.
I'll send you the full version because it's only 1 minute and 24 seconds long that I play on the outro because I don't want it being 3 minutes, almost 3 minutes long.
Well, yeah,
going out.
Well, it's funny. It's funny for Cemetery Go. I have a full version of the titles track, but yeah, I only play a 30-second intro and then I have the 30-second outro. But for Bitchy the Clown, he's so insecure, he needs to play the whole song at the end of the show. So he's hoping people will listen to it and buy it. But he'll play the whole song and he doesn't care. He'll be like, yeah, you want to listen to it, go ahead. That's kind of how his voice is. So,
yeah, all right.
I think people would love that.
Yeah, okay. Real quick, because, I got to do this because, like I said, I love horror and stuff. But, I've done voices and everything like that, especially being a scare actor. I've made up my own voices. But a lot of things that I do don't really require a voice. It's just that laugh.
Right. Oh, yeah. Sometimes people don't even...
and just that laugh.
Oh, that's perfect.
But
that's a good one.
But it's just that sound. You don't have to see where it's coming from. You just hear it and like, oh shit.
Oh, absolutely. Like all those old movies that, like William Castle, and he always had those kind of laughs in all of his movies. You know, like in 13 Ghosts and things like that. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right,
because that helps make it and stuff.
Yeah. So we're running low on time here, but I noticed on the website you got novelties coming soon. Is there any release date for those?
Not yet, because we're tying them in with Professor Creepy Scream Party and some of the other TV shows I'm working on. They are basically healthy kid snacks because I'm really big on health and kids are in such horrible shape in America, you know, all processed food. So I came up with a great recipe, but we're going to release that when the shows come out. So I'm hoping everything, if it's on schedule with the people we're talking to, I could start going into production on this by summer.
Okay.
I mean, you never know in the entertainment industry. I mean, that could push it back till December. But, you know, I'm a never say die person.
Yeah. And you mentioned your website, but where let people know again where people can find out more about you and your work, your cartoon work, and everything like that.
Everything on SnuggyBear.com. There's links to the books, to the shows, to my Facebook, and basically pretty much everything that's going on. I'm also on YouTube. If you go to Snuggy Bear Kids channel, they can see some of the videos there. Like I said, they can see Dolls in Quarantine, some of my music. I have other songs on there. Bitchy the Clown has links to his songs in the podcast. So I wanted to make everything so singular where like you don't have to go searching for everywhere to find my stuff. So it's all under SnuggyBear.com pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, I've found a lot of my guests and stuff tend to have a couple different sites, and it's like, really? I mean, on my website, the show's website, I mean, I got everything listed on the homepage where it's got what's coming up, Tonight Show, the upcoming guests, story of the day, everything like that. Then other pages are dedicated to like guests of the show with their links and everything, archives, stuff like that. But I want the main part of it on that homepage to where people can find out about the show and tune in and be like, okay, that's a guest that I want to hear, and be able
right,
to...
there's really no need. I hate when people have like 3-4 different friggin' websites or friggin' Facebook pages. They have like 8 Facebook pages. Some of them are obsolete. And I said, well, I can see if you said something got you kicked off Facebook and you have to change it. But, you know, if you're going to have your name and use a Facebook page, just keep it your Facebook page. You know, if you want to create something that's going to be controversial and you only want certain people to see it, fine. But if you want people to know you as an actor or a singer or a band or anything, an entrepreneur, you know, one page, it's so distracting when you have to keep searching for things.
Yeah, no, I do have like 4 pages, I'll admit. One is for the show, and that's the one that is mostly updated. The others, like one I have for like doing psychic readings and stuff like that. But I really don't have time to do that anymore, so I'm thinking just delete that page, delete another one that I started to do a
right. Well,
YouTube.
see, that's fine because you have separate specific things you need them for.
Yeah.
But if someone is just doing it for themselves without that, then you know that gets redundant and just sort of like I don't even want to go searching for it. But no, yours is specific because you need to have it separate. You have a show. You have this. It's all kind of a separate entity. I mean, for me, everything is connected because it's all coming from my brain. And I need to keep that all centered. That's why you'll see on the page, there's separate pages within it that show everything I'm working on.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to thank you again for coming on the show. If you want to stick around a couple minutes after the show, that'll be great. If not, I'll contact you on Facebook and through email and everything like that.
I could hang a couple of minutes. I'm enjoying this.
Okay, but I want to mention what we got coming up for tomorrow night and everything. Tomorrow night we're going to be joined by my guest Mike Lancaster as we talk about healing the body with structured water. We'll talk about the effects on the body with that of Kangen water on the immune system and how it can help the body and everything like that. And of course, Friday night, I got special open lines. I got an event on the Talking the Night Facebook page to talk about it and everything like that. But we're doing a special April Fool's open lines where I want to hear your stories about pranks that ghosts have played on you or you played on other people about the paranormal. I want to hear that crazy stuff. But as usual, we'll have open lines where you can call and share your stories, experiences, or even ask me a question about the paranormal or anything else that the show talks about. You can find all that up on the Talk of the Night website. Again, on the homepage up at the top, there is a link to David's banner ad that says check out Cemetery Go-Go and his picture and everything. Click on that. It'll take you right to his website. So until tomorrow night when we are joined by Mike Lancaster and talking about healthy options with water, I shall see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.
Good night.
Late night, darkness has fallen. Turn on the radio, and you hear him talking. Listening to what he has to say, all about the paranormal and all of the things. When he sounds off,
You can hear him say.